Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Monayu Ali and I am the first presenter in our group. So my topic is all about the introduction to phrase structure. So first, we should know the learning outcomes. At the end of the lesson, the students are expected to identify the basic word patterns SVO in sentence from different language, explain the concept of linearity, hierarchy, and categoriality in relation to sentence structure, value the importance of phrase structure, and apply phrase structure rules to analyze sentence. So now let's proceed to the definition of phrase structure. So when we say phrase structure, it refers to hierarchical organization of words and phrases within a sentence. It reveals how these elements combine to create meaningful expressions. So meaning to say, it helps us to understand how the sentence are put together, or it helps us to understand how the sentence are built together by showing the relationship between words and phrases to create a meaningful expression. So word order in English and other language. English word is less flexible than many other language because English has lost most of its grammatical inflection, which is the word ending showing tense, number, gender, and etc. So because of that, English came to rely on a more fixed word order to distinguish subject from object. The basic underlying word order in an English sentence is subject, verb, object, or the SVO structure. So meaning to say, nag-rely tayo sa SVO na kung saan kapag gagamitin natin ito is mas madali nating maiintindihan yung meaning ng sentence. So for example, Joe writes poetry. So Joe is the subject, writes is the verb, and poetry is the object. So when we say subject kasi, it is the noun or pronoun that performs the action, and the verb is the action word that describe what the subject do, and then the object is the one that who receive the action. So, di ba? Joe writes poetry. So, mas madali nating naiintindihan yung meaning ng sentence because of this SVO structure. So, this rather fixed word order operates in conjunction with prepositions, which help to indicate the semantic function of certain objects that are not direct object. For example, in the following sentence, the preposition with the signal that its object, noun Sarah, is in some sense the source of Joey's agreement. So, it means that even though English word order is mostly fixed, SVO preposition like with help clarify the meaning. Often, object are not direct object of the verb. So, for example, Joe agrees with Sarah. So, the subject is Joe, the verb is agrees, and Sarah is the object, and meron siyang ginamit na preposition which is the with. So when we say preposition, it is to connect the word to other part of sentence and have a close relationship with the word that follow. So Sarah is not a direct receiving the action, but the preposition with show that Sarah is the person Joe is agreeing with. So, si Sarah is object siya, but it's not a direct object. So, with the use of preposition, nagkaroon ng connection or close relationship with the word that follows. So, another example, the cat sat on the mat. The cat is the subject, sat is the verb, on is the preposition, and mat is the object. So, it is an indirect object, but because of preposition is nagpapakita ito ng relationship within that sentence that follows. So, ganon. So, thus we say that English is an SVO language like French, Spanish, and many other languages. So, meaning to say, ang English, French, and Spanish are another SVO language. However, there's a difference, because English and French always need a subject I or he, even in a short command. So Spanish often leave the subject out because the verb itself show who's doing the action. So for example, sa English, I speak English. So kung wala yung word na I is hindi natin maiintindihan yung meaning ng sentence. For example, speak English. So, who's the person who speak? So, hindi natin alam kung sino. So, because of the subject na I is malalaman natin yung meaning ng sentence na ginamit. So, another sa French naman, je parle français or I speak French. So, it is very important na meron siyang subject para maintindihan natin yung meaning ng sentence na binigyan nila. So, sa Spanish naman is yo hablo español, meaning to say, I speak Spanish. But, sa kanila is even though hindi natin gamitin yung word na yo, kung sabihin lang natin yung hablo español is maiintindihan na natin yon. Kasi yung word na yo is usually omitted, inaalis na nila. Kasi, because of the verb hablo is already tell us that it's a first person who is speaking. So, alam na nila na yung nagsasalita is yung first person kahit na hindi na nila gamitin yung yo kasi doon sa verb is nasabi na or alam na nila kung sino yung nagsasalita. So, ganun yung difference nila na sa Spanish is kahit hindi ka gumamit ng subject is alam na nila kung sino yung nagsasalita within that sentence na ginawa nila. However, SVO is only one of the three major orders for sentence constituents in the language of the world, SOV and VSO being the two alternative to SVO. So, meaning to say, subject, verb, object is a common sentence structure, but it's not the only one. There are also SOV and VSO structures used in different language. So, for example, the Japanese, Korean, Turkish, and Farsi or Persian is the one that who's using the subject, object, verb or SOV. And then yung classical Hebrew and Arabic, some Celtic language they're using the VSO. So, let's give an example. So, for example, di ba, magbigay tayo ng example ng subject, object, verb structure. So, SVO, for example, the cat chased the mouse. So, the cat is the subject, chase is the verb, and the mouse is the object. So, kapag ginawa natin siyang SOV, ang mangyayari is the cat, the mouse, chase. So, di ba, the word order is different, pero yung meaning niya is ganun pa rin. The meaning remain the same, but the word order is different. Kahit na magkaiba yung word order na ginamit doon, pero yung meaning nun is hindi siya nagbabago. So, even though it sounds strange, but it is common in other language. So, kapag gamitin naman natin siya sa VSO or verb, subject, object, ang mangyayari is chase the cat, the mouse, di ba? So, less common, but gaya nga ng sinabi ko na it sounds strange but it is common in other language na kung saan the meaning is still the same but the word order is different. So, yun, they are the same but only we put them in a different structure na ginamit natin. Kasi meron silang iba't ibang way ng structure sa pag-construct ng sentence na even though the word order is different but the meaning is still the same pa rin. So now let's proceed to the phrase structure rules. So these rules describe the sentence level and sub-sentence level structures of the language. So meaning to say, there are three important basic properties of sentence grammar. So that is the linearity, hierarchy, and categoriality. So it helps us on how to put a word together in the right order and how to group them into meaningful sentence. So first, we have the property of linearity. It accounts for the fact that words and morphemes of any English sentence need to be produced in some sort of sequence since they cannot all be produced at once. The basic SVO word order for English is an example of linearity. So meaning to say, when you say linearity, it is that the word must be arranged in a specific order. So it typically follows the SVO order. So for example, the child ate some cookies. So the child is the subject, ate is the verb, then some cookies or cookies is the object. So if the sentence follow the SVO order, it means ito yung sinasabi nating linearity. So the second property of sentence grammar is the property of hierarchy. It accounts for the fact that it is not sufficient to simply specify the words and morphemes of an English sentence and give their linear order. Some words group together, and this group in turn contribute to other group and ultimately to a larger whole. So, meaning to say, kapag ka naman property of hierarchy, it is a words grouped together to form a larger units or to form a phrase. So, for example, the child ate some cookies. So, we can see that the two words, the and child, function together as the subject noun phrase, while the remaining word ate some cookies function together as the predicate. So, within the predicate, we have the verb ate, while the other two words, some and cookies, form the object noun phrase. So, when we say noun phrase kasi it is a group of words acting as the subject. So, the noun phrase in the sentence is the child. So, when we say verb phrase naman, it is a group of words acting as the predicate. So, the predicate is the ate some cookies, and in that verb phrase, meron tayong verb rather, which is yung ate, and meron tayong object which is yung some cookies. So, meaning to say, hindi lang dapat natin maintindihan yung ginawa nating sentence. Hindi lang dapat natin maintindihan yung meaning ng sentence, but we also need to understand how those word or how those word can group together to form hierarchical structure. Third property of sentence grammar is the property of categoriality. So each group of word has specific job in the sentence. So in this categoriality, we will know how the word combine and function together. So you can't direct combine a noun and another noun without something like a verb in between. So, for example, the child ate some cookies. So each group or each word has a specific function, and we can create a sentence without a verb in between in that sentence. So the verb is the ate. So meaning to say, it helps us how the word group together to form phrase like noun phrase and verb phrase, and how these phrases combine to create one complete sentence. So the next one is the diagram here, so I will explain it to you. So this diagram shows how a sentence is created in linguistics, starting from the most abstract level and moving to the actual words on the page. So start with the phrase structure, rules, and lexicon. So the lexicon is basically a dictionary. It contains all the words of a language, and then the phrase structure rules are the grammatical rules that tell us how the words combine to form phrase and to form a complete sentence. And then after that, we have the underlying structure. So the lexicon and phrase structure rules created an underlying structure. So this kind of this is a sentence showing the basic relationship between the word, often represented as the tree diagram. And then we have the rules of movement, addition, substitution rather, and deletion. So it is called the mapping rules. So the mapping rules, it is a rules of movement, addition, substitution, and deletion. So you may change this underlying structure. So this might involve moving words around, like in question, or you can add a words, or you can change, or by changing the words. And then we have the morphological rules, which is the morphological rules apply. Morphology is the study of word formation. So these rules handle things like adding suffixes, Like you can add ing or ed in the last word, or to create a different word forms. And then the orthographic or phonological rules. So in this, we can call it phonological rules. So orthographic is the spelling. So in making a sentence, it is important to know the spelling of the words, or phonological, so the sound of the words on how you pronounce it. So this is a rules that you can create the final form of the sentence, the surface structure, the word as they actually appear or sound. So this is the process, goes from abstract grammatical rules and vocabulary to the actual spoken or written sentence. And then the surface structure is that is the final, which is you can create the complete sentence in a grammatically correct sentence. So now I will going to discuss the first phrase structure rules. So the first phrase structure rules explain us how sentences are built using phrase structure rules. So these rules show how a sentence can be broken down into smaller parts, like subject and a predicate, and how optional modifiers can be added. So the S represents the entire sentence. The arrow means rewritten or rewritten as or expands to. And then the small sm with small n is the crucial part, which is the sm stand for sentence modifier. So these are optional word or phrases that modify the whole sentence. For example, perhaps, maybe, yes, or no. So this is optional. Maaari mo siyang ilagay, maaari mo rin siyang hindi ilagay. And then the small n, the superscript, indicate that you can have 0 or more sentence modifiers. So you can add multiple sentence modifier elements or none at all. And then the S represent the core of the sentence. So meaning to say, it is the obligatory part, which is it is the part that must be present for a grammatically correct sentence. So it is the main subject and predicate. So I will show you the example for us para mas maintindihan pa natin yung first phrase structure rules. So for example, maybe the dog barked loudly. So maybe is the sentence modifier and the dog barked loudly is the core sentence. So meaning to say, the rules show how the complete sentence, maybe the dog barked loudly, is constructed from an optional modifier and a mandatory core sentence. So in short, the example introduced the fundamental concept in linguistics on how the sentences are structured using a set of rules that define obligatory and optional components. So the first rule illustrates by showing how a sentence can be expanded by adding optional sentence modifiers to a core sentence structure. So now let's proceed to the second rule. So in the second rule, a more graphic way of representing these rules is in a tree diagram. So as you can see in a tree diagram, the S in the top node represent the entire sentence, which is the perhaps the man works at home. And then we have the branch from S, which is the SM or the sentence modifier, the word perhaps. And then in another branch from S is the another S represent the core sentence, which is the core sentence is the man works at home. So the triangle under the subject indicate that this could be broken down further into smaller parts. Example, the and the noun man. Example is the determiner the and the noun man. And then sa predicate, we have the branch from the S represent the predicate works at home. Similarly, the triangle indicate further breakdown in possible. So, sa madaling salita, the tree diagram show the hierarchical structure of the sentence, illustrating how the sentence modifier and the core sentence, the subject and the predicate combine to form the complete sentence. In the example, so the triangle indicate that further analysis of the subject and predicate is possible. So breaking them down into even smaller grammatical units. So now let's proceed to the third rule.
So the internal structure of noun phrases. So in this rule, the third phrase structure rule rewrites the subject as NP or the noun phrase. So this rule say that the subject of a sentence can be rewritten as a noun phrase or NP. So a noun phrase is a group of words that function as a noun. Nasabi ko na to kanina or na-explain ko na to kanina. So it usually has a noun as its head and can include things like adjective, articles, and the other modifiers. So for example, the big red dog bark. So the subject here is the big red dog is the subject of the sentence, and the big red dog is also a noun phrase. So the dog is the head of the noun, and the big and red are the modifiers describing the dog. So yun yung sinasabi ko na the subject can be a noun phrase. So the third rule show how we can replace the subject in our sentence analysis with noun phrase, indicating that the subject is a noun phrase. So this allow us to further break down the subject into its constituent part using additional rules which are not shown here. So we could then analyze the noun phrase, the big red dog, into its components. For example, the is the determiner, adjective is the big and red, and the noun is the dog. So yeah, the dog is the head of the noun. So now let's proceed to the fourth rule, rewrites NP in the two quite different ways. So in the fourth rule, in the second instance, the noun phrase can be written as a pronoun. So this is the simple. You can replace the noun phrase with the pronoun like I, you, he, she, it, were, or they. So for example, instead of saying the big red dog ball bounce, you could say it bounced. So for us, na mas mapapadali sa'yo na intindihin yung meaning ng sentence, at mas mapapadali sa'yo na gumawa ng sentence by using the simple pronoun. So the first option is more complex in that it allows noun phrase to be expanded in any number of ways. Minimally, it is expanded as an uninflected lexical noun such as book, rice, or Nancy. So for example, optionally, it can be expanded. So meaning to say, in minimal, we can use a book. It's just a noun. For example, book, rice, or Nancy. And then the next one as a noun with a plural inflection. So meaning to say, for example, books or children. So it is a noun plus plural marker. So yeah. The next one is a noun with up to 3 determiners. So for example, all his other money. So all his other money, there are 3 determiners plus a noun. So all his other is determiners and the money is the noun. And then the next one is as a noun with a preceding adjective phrase. For example, a very blue sky. So a very blue sky, with that determiner with plus adjective phrase plus noun. So the next one is a noun with the following prepositional phrase. For example, a man of honor. So a man of honor, determiner plus noun plus prepositional phrase. Then the next one is a noun with a various combination above the option. So meaning to say, multiple combination. For example, the famous city of New York, all the little children, many very colorful jack-o'-lantern. So there are multiple combination that we're using. So determiner plus adjective phrase plus noun plus prepositional phrase. So diba, there are so many multiple combination that we are using in the example. So in short, in rule number 4, it provides 2 options for simplifying or expanding noun phrase in a sentence. The second option allows for a lot of flexibility in creating detailed descriptions. So that's all. If you have any question, you can ask me, and if none, thank you for listening, and I hope you will learn from it. Assalamualaikum.